Hello and welcome. My name is Stefan Poschik from CHC Corporate Health Consulting, and you are listening to our newest episode of our CHC expert interview. Today, I have a super interesting guest from the US, and she's going to introduce herself in a couple of seconds. We are going to talk about nature. We are going to be talking about fearlessness, about entrepreneurship. And yeah, with these words, hello and welcome, Sandra. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you so much, Stefan. I'm so glad to be here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. We've had such fun even before we hit record here. So I think it's going to be great. So I am Sandra Dee Robinson. I am coming to you from the great state of Texas in the United States. A while back, the media labeled me the charisma coach, which at the time I thought was ridiculous. And then I'm like, no, that is actually what I do. I work with experts, leaders, and entrepreneurs as well to help them really become fearless and unforgettable when they find themselves in what seems like the spotlight. So it could literally be the spotlight on a stage, keynoting for a conference, or leading your team in your office. It could also be working with the media, being interviewed, something like this. I mean, there is a piece of all of those things that will somehow kind of get underneath somebody's skin and kind of short circuit their confidence level and kind of make them wonder, am I really prepared for this? That's where I come in. So I really work with people in their communication, their relationship building, and building in that, that culture of their company as well.
That's really, really awesome. So let's dive right into it.
Yeah.
How can I become fearless as an entrepreneur?
There's so many different levels to that question. What I specialize in is helping people to be fearless in the way they are showing up, fearless in their communication, in their relationships. And so when I first started working and coaching people, I was really just helping them on camera. My background is, as you know, Stefan, but a lot of audience might not know, since I was at the age of 11, I've been in front of the camera. So I was an actress and supported myself exclusively doing that for a couple of decades. And I left my last show when I came here to Texas because that's when I started working in the nature-based trainings and coaching people in a different capacity. And so we'll get to that at some point. But because of my background in TV, I started working with people on camera. And that was just my own focus. That was, this is what I'm going to teach people to do. And what was interesting is that people that, there's a really strange feeling when they get in front of a camera and they have to communicate with it. It's not like we're sitting across from each other and I can get the energy from you, you get the energy from me. So it derails a lot of people. In fact, it derailed people that were world-class speakers, that were New York Times multiple best-selling authors. And they would sit down with me and go, I just freak out. And I realized, and then I would get somebody comfortable on camera that had never been on camera before, and they'd be asked to speak.
What's that? I mean, how can somebody who is super confident on stage switch so massively when he just needs to focus on
break out? It's just the opposite, as I was going to say. I would have people that would get comfortable on camera. They'd be asked to speak because they look so good on camera, and they'd go, I don't know what to do with all this energy coming at me. So so you see what I mean? There's a comfort zone that I will help people through no matter where it is that they are. Somebody that has been a manager forever, now promoted to a position where they have more responsibility and they're handling more people and they have to speak in front of a boardroom of people once a week or once a month. And this is a whole different environment. And all of that stuff comes up. So specifically when it comes to talking to a camera, these speakers, like these international amazing speakers, just like you and me sitting in a conversation, we're used to getting that feedback, that instant, they're looking at me, I know that they're listening to me, they're yawning, they're bored. Like we know, we can say, okay, it's really easy to feel like we're gaining rapport if we can see somebody. And when we can't, when we're talking to a light or a lens, it's a whole different deal. And so it almost feels, some people have said it feels like they're throwing their energy out and it's just bouncing back, which is really uncomfortable for a lot of people, until I give them some mindset hacks, to realize that they're using this as a tool, this lens, they're actually talking through it. And we get really specific as to who they're talking to. So a lot of that comes into who have they most liked working with, who do they want to attract into their business, and who is it that they can really picture and speak in that tone and that intention through the lens to that person. So it helps a lot.
Okay, that's really great. So the techniques you teach them or you help people with, can somebody also use it to be more fearless when it comes, for example, to the marketplace and things like that? Because at the moment, what I see and what we hear from so many of our customers and in our network is, okay, the marketplace is, a lot of fear is out there. The media is pushing so much bad and negative stuff onto us. Recession is coming, all these negative things. So, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur since 23 years, and I survived major crises like the Corona crisis, the financial meltdown in 2009, 8, 9, 10, and things like that. Yep. So I get it that a lot of people are really afraid as an entrepreneur at the moment. So can they also leverage the techniques you teach on to be more fearless in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. A big part of what I do on a personal coaching basis, you know, is that when I work with people one-to-one, most of the time we're going to start with a personal branding assessment. And I know branding is one of those words that's been mutilated and overused and watered down, and personal branding has taken on so many different connotations. And for me, branding always comes down to the promise of an experience. And so when I meet you, Stefan, I instantly get a feeling from you, and I'm either going to click with you or, you know, maybe I'm not. And it's okay that people don't. It's not about making sure you don't get into trouble, don't offend anybody. I think that's something that a lot of people are afraid of when it comes to their marketing and stepping out and being seen. But if you really understand what people love about you and what comes across as your leading attractor factor, excuse me, your leading attractor factor, then I think that's what you can stand behind and stand on and feel firm on that. And yes, you're going to have to be vulnerable. When you're leading a company, you have to be vulnerable. You know, it's just something that I think makes people stronger once they step out of that comfort zone and they realize, okay, I'm going to put the way I really feel out there. I mean, obviously with respect, right? I always think that there's compassion and kindness and respect that has to be part of that. I don't work with people that don't fall into those categories. Okay. But that said, I do think that there is something for, you know, standing up for what it is that is in your heart to stand up for. Like one of the phrases that I use when I'm working with people, let's say, what is it that you stand for no matter what? And I make them repeat it. And I make sure that they repeat at the end of that, the words, no matter what. Because there's something when you say no matter what, that like inside it's almost like your body goes, oh, your mind body comes together and goes, oh, we're serious about this. Oh, yeah. And if it doesn't feel in alignment, then we go back and revisit that. You know, let me say, maybe it's not, you know, ABC that you stand for. Maybe it's just AB that you stand for. You know, let's get really specific about what you stand for no matter what. And when you take that forward, that's how you build your brand. That's how you build your company culture. And I think that's something that you can be fearless in. Once you know what you stand on, it's a lot easier, right? It's a lot easier to stand on a solid stone than a rickety ladder. Yeah. Right. I have a fear of falling. So that's why
I 100% agree. I mean, I signed a contract with myself a long time ago where I said, okay, I will get up one more time, no matter what is going to happen. And I'm going to become successful as an entrepreneur. And when I basically signed this contract with myself, it was clear, okay, there is no other option. I'm not going into the corporate world. I'm not going to search for a job. I will figure it out, no matter how long it takes. And this solid foundation, what you just mentioned, this was basically the starting point for me, where I said, okay, good. Now I know the direction. I signed up for this. I don't give up. I will figure it out. And then I started to figure out, okay, what do I talk about? What's my positioning? What's my product? Who is my customer? And all these things. But I know exactly how much this helped me in my early days in my entrepreneurial journey. So 100%. Yeah.
You found your no matter what.
Yeah, right. Right. Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So but it's funny. People, I think a lot of times they'll step into something with the presumption that, oh, I have to be like everybody else, or I have to be like my parents told me to be, and then when I say, okay, you know, what do you stand for? And they say somebody else's words.
Yeah. Right.
And that's why the no matter what kind of kicks him into like, wait a minute, you know, and I'll actually say, how does it feel in your body? Is there any tightness in your body? We do a lot of, no matter whether I'm working outside with the nature-based stuff or I'm working with people via Zoom or, you know, anywhere in the world, it's always, you know, kind of coming back to the body and going, how does it really feel when you say those things, when you sit with that, vision, is it in alignment? Is there tightness in your body? Just be aware of it. It's not wrong, but it's telling you something. And so we do a lot of that reconnection.
That's great. So stay with this reconnection, and let's go to the second step, basically, or the second part, what I want to talk about. I know you are doing awesome stuff where you basically bring decision makers into nature and help them achieve amazing things. The reason why one of the reasons why I wanted to do this interview with you, Sandra, is nature is for me the most energy providing source in my life. And I love to go mountain biking. I do it at least 3 or 4 times every single week, no matter what's the weather outside. I mean, of course, I like it more when it's nice and sunny and shiny and in
Sardinia. But come on, muddy days are the most fun. Are you kidding? To come back covered in mud, that's the best.
But I still do it even if it's foggy and rainy and cold and blah. But so for me, nature is massive when it comes to giving me energy, providing me clarity, grounding myself again. And I need this grounding effect. I mean, I'm running 4 different companies and I need this reconnecting with nature and with myself. So tell us a little bit about the retreats and bringing people back to nature, what you are doing here.
Well, I love it because what you just said is 100% right on. And I've always felt that when I was a kid. I had a feeling that when I was in the house with my mother, I think deep down inside my soul or whatever, my spirit just kind of said, this doesn't feel safe. And so I was outside most of the time, and so I really just became like part of that. And I started actually observing animal behavior when I was literally 3. My brother's 18 years older than me. He enhanced that because he was a wildlife biologist. So he would send me, pamphlets and magazines about animals and nature. And so I was reading to people by the time I was 4, and a lot of it had to do with animals and communication. So it's really funny when I say, wow, it's interesting how when you look at what you did as a kid, if it feeds into what you're doing now, you can actually find great happiness in what it is that you're doing, and that's kind of where I am. So I get really excited about this topic and what we're doing, this craziness that we're doing here, bringing people, executives out of the office and into dirty arenas with horses. Like what? So there is something that you said that like it energizes you to be in nature. That makes complete sense because and you said it's grounding. I mean, you can look up these things that are getting really popular now on TikTok and whatever. Look up forest bathing, nature bathing. I just posted something about this, I think, on LinkedIn. And it's just so funny to me that this has become like a fascination with people. In part, I think a lot of the attraction to it is because we had a bit of that. A lot of us had a bit of that during the shutdowns for the pandemic. And we weren't in our offices. We were walking outside because that was what we could do, right? We couldn't go to movies. We couldn't do any of these things. So we did go outside and kind of get that energetic regulation, and literally I make a point of going out, obviously, like today is a cloudy day where I am in Austin, so there's no sun, but I still went out and put my feet on the ground in the morning when I woke up. Even if it's snowing, I walk out, I put my feet on the ground because I feel like there is that connection to earth. Well, I know that there's a connection to earth.
And you are discharging all this negative.
Yes. I was just going to say, you discharge into the earth and that allows you to be energized for the rest of your day. So what you're saying, and you're active when you're out, you're mountain biking, you're doing things. So you're really doing something that's incredibly healthy for your body. But just the fact that you can be outside in nature, away from some of the electronic stuff that we are constantly surrounded by. I am too. I mean, when I spend 7 hours in front of a computer with the lights and on Zoom calls, I feel horrible. I feel horrible. And the easiest thing and the laziest thing for me to do is to go grab a glass of wine or 2, and I realized or 3. That's one thing people said, like during the shutdown, they started drinking more. I'm like, yeah, I totally understand that. I do. But I realized, I feel so much better then and after if I just walk outside. And I have a reason to walk outside. I'm on a farm. I've got the horses here. I've got chickens I got to take care of. I've got dogs that go out and need to be trained. I mean, I have an excuse and a reason for being outside. So I know that I'm getting that. But for me to be able to offer retreats to people that may not make that a priority, my mission and my goal is that I'm able to help them remember that we are not separate from the natural world. We are actually part of it. We're designed to be as part of it and to be caring for it, not shoving it aside, not thinking that we are something completely separate. And, when I'm working with the retreats, I bring horses into it. And I think horses are actually just something that allows they're a great gateway in a way, because some people, particularly men, will look and think, oh, they're big, strong animals. Yeah, I want to get in there and control those things. I want to go take this retreat and see what this is all about.
Big mistake. Big mistake.
Yeah, I know it is. For a lot of them, it is. Yes. But those are some of the best transformations, as are the women that go, I've always been afraid of them. Maybe this would be good for me, because that fear and inhibition is showing up in other areas of their life as well. So that also can be a wonderful transformative experience. You've got people that have had experiences with horses before. Maybe they had their own horse or have their own horse, and they just don't understand how they can communicate better. And when you learn to communicate with a sentient being that has its own personality, horsenality, it has its own experiences and doesn't speak your language, now you are out of your comfort zone. Even people that have horses will be out of their comfort zone, because we don't often, as riders of horses, we're not often encouraged to communicate with them in their way. And so it's kind of like when you meet somebody new, you don't know what they like. You don't know anything about them, but you have to figure that out in order to work with them. Only we make it a little harder by taking that language away. So
I really, really love this approach. So is the learning effect when you connect these two, in my opinion, massive things, nature and animals, the learning effect is more intense, right? And is it also easier to transfer this in the future for example, leaders, managers, entrepreneurs?
I'm so glad you asked that. And yes, it's a kinesthetic learning. So we are embodying that transformation just by the pure nature of it. When I said we take away language, what's left? Now the new statement that I heard in the past couple of months has gone from like 78% of our communication is nonverbal to somebody saying recently 93% is what I heard, and they have their reasons for increasing that. But if we realize that most of our conversation, no matter what statistic you look at, is nonverbal, then we suddenly become really aware of what our energy, our body language, our posture, our eye contact, our touch is actually doing. So this is an opportunity to really embody that shift. And the great thing about working with the horses is that they are instantly forgiving, where people are not. If I come in and I'm a little too harsh for you the first time you meet me, you're going to be like, yeah, okay, I'm going to stay away from Sandra because she's just too intense, And if I do that to a horse and then I change how I'm being and I come back, they give you a second chance. They're
really?
Like, oh,
okay. So I forgot what
now.
you did 5 minutes ago to me. So if you are nice now, that's fine for me.
Yeah, pretty much. It's about if they feel safe. And we can equate that. You said, can you take this and can you bring it into the world of your business and your community and your life and your home? Yes, absolutely. Because when we learn that your equine partner, your horse, is looking really to feel safe, they're just giant prey animals. Like think of them as giant deer or rabbits. That's essentially how they see the world. It's hard to imagine that when they're 12 to 1,400 pounds and they're standing in front of you. You're like, you got to be kidding me. But that is how they see it. And they have for millions of years. They've been here a lot longer than we have, millions and millions more years than we have. So they have really got down the mastery of knowing when they feel safe and when they don't. And the second they don't, they leave. They just leave. If it's a real danger, they run quickly away because that's the only way they can protect themselves. If it's just, hey, I'm not comfortable, they'll just walk away. That's usually what we experience when we're working with them, is they just walk away or they ignore. They're going to shut down. and they're going to ignore it. And so we train people to look for that and to understand what emotional safety is in the workplace. It's very similar to understanding how you're showing up and giving that creature or giving that person the space to be, to express, to process before you ask for anything else. So we concentrate on something we call relationship over task. And if we can apply this to a lot of the things that we do when we're at work and we're asking people to do things, if they're butting up against a problem, instead of saying, well, look, you got to get this done. Maybe, they say, why, or you have a sale that's going wrong and they say no. Instead of just saying, okay, you can't get it done, or, oh, you don't want this, ask why.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Well, here, let me see if I can get you some clarity, right? Let me help you clarify that. Let me tell you what we really need from you in this project and where you need help. Let's see if we can't get you some help, in your project, so we can get this thing done, because we want the same thing. We want to get this project done. And so that's emotional safety. Instead of just saying, get it done or you're fired, get it done, you're out of here, get it done, because, and raising your voice, which is traditionally how things have been, right? It's a whole new world right now with what is keeping, especially younger generations, employed, is that they have to feel seen and heard and valued.
Yeah.
And one way to do that is,
I totally agree. We see this also in our consulting service projects where we work with big corporate groups, especially this emotional safety. I like this, that you brought this up, is one of the biggest and most important things what managers or team leaders or can provide for their employees, because then you have employee engagement, then you have highly productive people, then you have people who really like to be where they are. Then they help each other. They don't fight against the team members in the department, but they support each other. So this is really super interesting. So I get it 100%. So I would love to join one of your masterminds in the future, because I was writing when I was 10 for 3 years, but it's a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's a couple.
Well, I have a little bit experience, but I forgot everything what I knew about horses. So let's go to a little bit to the structure or the organization, because I know a lot of people, especially consultants, coaches, and trainers, are thinking, oh wow, a mastermind, a retreat, this would be awesome when I can put this together. So is there some kind of structure when you want to set up a retreat, or how do you start from the starting point until you have, I don't know, 10, 20, however many people in your retreat with the horses?
It depends on how big the retreat is intended to be. So I know you're aware I'm doing a collaborative effort with somebody that we know, and my collaborative partner wants to go bigger than I've ever
What's the number you want to have?
He's looking for 60.
60. Okay, what's your number?
I'm good with like 25.
Okay.
So, but here's the thing, like, I don't do this alone, I do have co-facilitators. I have people that will go alongside of me so that we can actually split a large group into smaller divisions, and we can give them different things.
Sandra, you bring 25 and he brings 60, so you have a great group.
Yes, exactly. Well, I panicked when some, and this is growth, right? This is when you're talking about how do you put on a retreat. This is something to think about. I love the collaborative effort, because I think that when you're doing, and I have several of them that are coming up in 2024. This is kind of my focus, it seems, for this year, is partnering with people that have their own unique approach to wholeness and wellness and healthy communication and all of that. And then I bring in this like nature-based side of it. And of course I have the stuff that I usually talk about, which is helping people to be fearless in their conversations, no matter where they are or what arena they're in, literally life arenas and through the camera lens or whatever. But working with other people and bringing all of that talent together. Plus, I have more people on my team. So I'm really focused on safety personally. So if you're doing something outside, whether it's a ropes course or you're working with horses, and even though we don't ride, I mean, in most cases, I will say we don't ride the horses. This is a little bit different. So automatically people go, wait, like we're reframing them from the very beginning. So that said, we still concentrate a lot on keeping people safe, no matter where they are. Emotionally safe, yes. Physically safe is a big part of it. Creature comforts. So this is something that is really important to me because I want people to be able to relax. I don't want them worrying, am I not going to get enough sleep, or to have them sleepless when they come in. That I know you and I have probably been to some of these conferences where they deliberately keep you uncomfortable. They deliberately make it so that it's really difficult for you to go to the bathroom. You have to rush back into the room, right? And then you're up, you get no sleep.
I was on multiple events like that.
Yes. And then the whole idea is that like they weaken you until you go, yes, I'll take the $25,000 program.
Yeah,
I need
please
this.
take my card. Please take my card.
And then just the opposite. Like, I want you understanding how to feel good in your body. I want you sleeping well. I want you to have crazy dreams that are going to help you to be more clear by the time you leave. I want you to be able to take that stuff, not just go home and sleep for 3 days. I want you to take and get excited, like you get excited being outside when you're mountain biking. I want people that excited and that fired up to bring what they've learned and embodied into their life and their community and their business. And so I want them to be healthy and comfortable. I want there to be good food, clean bathrooms. I mean, it sounds funny to say that, but I remember even when I was doing events that were 3 days at a hotel, not at a ranch, 3 days at a hotel, I would show up and I would walk in, and if the experience in the lobby didn't feel good, I'd walk out. If the experience in the lobby felt good and people treated me nicely, I would go to the bathrooms outside the conference room. And if they were not clean, I would walk out. Like, this is literally something that I think makes a difference. When my husband is with me doing those events, even in a conference room, he'll notice when somebody is speaking and somebody pushes the door to go out, the big doors that are at a conference room, at a ballroom or something, they go clunk, clunk when you go to open them. Yeah. He'll go and he'll silence that. He'll tape it so it doesn't make the noise.
That's great.
I pay attention to all these things because we pick up 10,000 bits of information every single second with our brain. I want that information to be cohesive. I want it to be something that is actually getting people to where they came to be. I want that transformation.
You basically create a really, really massively holistic experience, right?
Yes.
Not just one piece, focusing on one piece. So basically the whole experience is super important, right?
Yes, that's how I feel. I feel if you're giving swag bags, or somebody's going to be staying, like, Jeffrey and I in May, we're doing the collaborative effort together. And so Jeffrey and the team have talked about, we're going to put swag bags in there. What's going to be in there? Well, it's going to be shampoo, not just any shampoo. We have to make sure it's high quality, not that the stuff you can get at the dollar store. Yeah. It's easy to do that.
Yeah, right.
But I want it to be something.
The quality starts with these small efforts to basically stack up to the whole experience, right?
Yeah, everything. Like the biggest group that we had here, let me just real quick. The biggest group that we had here at my farm was 23 people. Now, for where I am, that's a lot. Our biggest concern was when we took everybody to the farm to table lunch. Yeah. Everybody has to wash their hands. We had one bathroom. Okay. What happens, right? And so I was like, okay, practicality. I'm going to go get one of those plastic things that you see at concerts, right? That like 4 people can wash their hands. And thank goodness I had a friend that's an event planner, and she goes, oh my gosh, no, that's completely against your brand. And I didn't see any other alternative. And what we ended up doing, and this is clever. I mean, when you're doing a retreat, you think about these things, and people made comments and they loved what we did. We did a hand washing line with a little antique bench, a horse trough that had water and flowers and beautiful rocks in the bottom of it. Yeah. And it was next to a hose. So we would fill these antique pitchers, give them some nature, like purely natural soap that had wonderful aromatic oils and stuff, put the soap on their hands, and then we'd pour the antique pitchers of water over their hands, and then they'd wipe their hands and they go, oh, this is such a cute idea. This is so great. And I'm like, yeah, necessity. It's just,
the way on how you solve the necessity is awesome and astonishing, and a lot of people wouldn't do this. So I love this. I think we need to talk even more about this. So, but one more question I want to ask you is on how do you decide who is allowed to join your retreat, or how do you define basically the audience you want to have there? Because I mean, literally everybody should go to something like that to reconnect with nature, to learn on how to talk to other people, lead other people, but with this safety, with this emotional security, even if you don't have the language, and you need to guide the horse without the horse speaking English or German or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
How do you decide which people you bring to these retreats, and who do you do not want to have there?
That's an awesome question to ask, because in the world that I live, my certification is trauma-focused equine-assisted psychotherapy. That's what I'm certified in. I am not a therapist. I want to make that clear. I am the equine professional that would work in that environment. So, but what I do isn't therapy. So I do equine-assisted coaching. That makes it really simple to see. There's a difference there. I don't have a psychologist next to me, and not that I would be freaked out, but I don't really help people through severe trauma. That's something that I think takes some time and some real skill and expertise. And I recommend people that work similar to me to be able to help people with that. So when you said it can help everybody should, and yes, it can. I was introduced to this by seeing the effects that this type of work can have on people with severe trauma, like children that are rescued from sex trafficking, some really serious trauma. And of course, some of that's going to come up with what I do, but I can't use that as my target. We're talking about retreats. We're talking about business. We're talking about how can I make some money. I'm running a business too. I'm not a non-for-profit, right? So how can I make this viable for myself so that I can continue to reach more people? And my goal is, and maybe it's, Pollyanna, but I'd like to think that I am reaching people that are leaders in their company, their community, and that there will be this ripple effect. So when they change how they are communicating and relating, and they come from a more compassionate, more effective way of communicating, and creating that safe environment that we talked about, that will ripple into the people that are beneath them, leading them the same way, and maybe even into their homes with the way they're talking to their kids and things like that. So that's kind of why I target specifically leaders. Mm-hmm. And where can I make the biggest difference in a broader scale? And I think that's kind of where I've been placed. That's who's in my world. And so that's who I hope to connect with and bring into the retreats.
That's awesome, Sandra. Thank you so much for sharing all these things. And you see, I could go on and on and on, but I really value your time. So thank you so much for all these great insights. I'm sure a lot of people want to connect with you and want to know more about this. So what's the best way to connect with you or reach out to you?
Easiest way is sandradeerobinson.com. That's my full name, Sandra Dee, as in Sandra Dee from Greece, Dee. Robinson.com. And on there, you'll see there's a way that you can actually connect and be, unofficially a free part of my community by just getting my newsletter twice a week. But there's also more information about the retreats, and you can read people's experiences and how it's been for them. You can see some videos and what they've experienced, and you can learn a little bit more about this. And even if I can't help you out, I'm happy to find somebody for you in your part of the world that will actually create something like this for you. So.
Oh, that's awesome. We are definitely going to post this when we put this video out and this interview. Sandra, thanks again so much. I really look forward to our next conversation and to be on one of your retreats in the future, hopefully.
Absolutely.
And a lot of success. And I'm sure people need this, and I know people need this. So just take whatever you heard from Sandra in the last couple of minutes, 20, 30 minutes on how long we did it, and go back to nature, connect with Sandra, and use all the great insights you just heard from her. So thank you for that, and a lot of success for you, Sandra, and to all our listeners out there.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.